Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's vlog post. It's been certainly a strange week in the bond market. Last week we were doing fairly well, and then Thursday and Friday came out and really shook things up, and it didn't get any better. This week we're clearly improved a bit on Wednesday, but certainly not recovered 100%. And based upon the conversation I've been having with my clients this week, I did want to spend this call a little bit having the conversation about some of the things that move the market and things that we know, things that we should know, things that we should be aware of, things that we can share with our clients, because as mortgage professionals, we deal with a lot of stuff on our day-to-day businesses, and some of the things are controllable, and we can put systems and processes in place to deal with them. But as well as I do, we can't do anything about market volatility. And when the market moves, it can reduce, create a great deal of stress in their lives, the lives of our referral partners, our team members, ourselves. Obviously, it's a situation where people don't like it when rates go higher. Sure, they like it when rates go lower, but even then, sometimes that causes stress to people who are already locked in or people who had recently closed. So the reality of all of this is we're never going to be able to control the volatility of the market, but we can prepare ourselves and our team and our referral partners and even our clients about the outside forces, because it's not you, it's not generally your company that is responsible for higher rates. Let's be honest. The markets move. We're all dealing with the same mortgage market. So I created a small list of things that are certainly market movers or could be market movers, and kind of what they could be prepared for, things that you might want to share with your clients or at least be aware of yourself. And the first thing that I picked out were obviously the Fed meetings, because most of the people are focused on the Fed meetings. Now, we know that they happen 10 times a year, that they set the short-term, market rates. They don't set the mortgage rates, and we all have had experiences where the Fed has raised rates and the mortgage market actually improved, or the Fed had lowered rates and the mortgage market got worse. So there's not necessarily a direct correlation between short-term rates and long-term rates, and we can go into a whole long discussion about how they interact, and we can do that another day. But the reality of it is, it's not always what the Fed does. Sometimes it can be what they say or what they don't say that can create havoc with inside the markets, and we need to be prepared for that. At the very least, we should know when the Fed meetings are taking place, and when the minutes of those meetings are going to come out, because those are things that can move the market. Obviously, not on an island are things like CPI and PPI. CPI is the Consumer Price Index, and while its sole function is to track inflation on typical consumer items, and clearly we understand that when inflation goes higher, interest rates go higher. Inflation goes lower, interest rates tend to follow. And now we know that the CPI report comes out once a month. The PPI report, which is the producer price index, affects what's the inflation rate, what are the prices doing on a wholesale level. Now, the main difference between CPI and PPI is that the PPI, the wholesale price market, doesn't necessarily translate through the entire system. So there have been many occasions where the producer price index has gone up, but the manufacturers of those items have, either through productivity or just decided to eat the higher costs themselves instead of passing those costs on to the customer. But again, you should be aware of when those things take place, because they can impact the market. Now, every Thursday, we know, except if there is a holiday, we've got initial jobless claims and continuing jobless claims. And again, it happens every Thursday. And that has a lot to do with what the economy is doing or how the market views the economy by saying that, hey, we've got, you know, more people collecting, or applying for unemployment, and continuing claims continue to go higher. Well, what does that mean? It means companies are laying off, and those people are staying on unemployment longer because they're having a harder time finding another job. Same thing holds true with, continuing claims maybe going lower, but it's not always because people found jobs, because the government has a way of looking at the continuing claims and saying, well, if the person's not working, they may very well have retired or left the workforce. And so then if you don't dissect it and say, okay, the labor participation rate or hours worked, those types of things really impact the market. But it takes a little longer for everybody to read into those numbers and read the full report and dissect that information and then interpret that information and understand it. And that's unfortunate. Headline numbers tend to give a knee-jerk reaction one way or the other, but they may not pull through over the long run. And you need to be aware of that, because we just saw last week when we had the jobs report, which again, first Friday of the month, and that jobs report, really important, because the first Friday of the month that jobs report comes out, and that kind of sets the stage for what happened the month before. Now, we saw that, last week, the jobs report came out, and people looked at it, and there were a lot of people, a lot of jobs created, a lot of people that got hired. And guess what? It was like, gee, we thought the economy was slowing down. This says the economy is still moving forward. Next thing we know, we go into the CPI numbers this week, and everybody's expecting inflation to come down. Inflation doesn't come down, and we see bad things happening as far as the rate market goes. And it was Tuesday, we had a pretty bad day. We lost over 500 points in the stock market because the stock market didn't like it. So today we've got initial and continuing claims. Friday we've got the PPI numbers, could be job movers. Obviously, world events are always on the table. Things can happen. Stuff happens all the time. Could be war, could be weather, could be political changes, could be shifts in policy that all can impact rates overseas or locally. And we have to be aware of not only what happens here in the United States, but major world events. And last but not least, we all know any minute of any day, any given week, month, or year, lending guidelines, products, programs at any point can change. They can be eliminated, they can be expanded, they could be changing, guidelines can move, which may or may not impact the rate. It may or may not impact program availability to your people. Those things you need to pay attention to and know where to look, or at least be notified when that stuff happens. Because again, these things are important, and you at least know when some of this stuff may happen. And the markets are never going to be 100% predictable, even if you know what's coming. But these are the things that I track, and what I suggest to my clients to track on an ongoing basis, and understanding where you can get this information and where you can read the reports. And it may not have to be you. You may have a manager or a coworker or somebody or some place where you trust the information, so that you can know what to do with it and disseminate it and share it accurately and honestly with your team, with your clients, with your referral partners. Because again, there's so much misinformation and misinterpretation of information out on the internet and on social media. You got to be careful, because it wasn't that long ago there were people out there telling us we were going to see 5%, rates in March, and Fed cuts and all these other things. And right now we're not anywhere near 5, and I'm pretty sure, just looking at the picture as a whole, we're probably not going to see a Fed cut in March. So just keep this in mind. And as always, if you have any questions, it's Mike, imtcoaching.com. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care.